Today, I want to deconstruct the belief that life begins at conception. That means I want to understand the subconscious beliefs and biases I had while I believed it, and try to distinguish between why I really believed it and why I thought I believed it. So, as a formerly pro life Christian, I believed abortion was wrong. Why? It's very simple. It's because murder is wrong and abortion is murder. I never felt the need to think hard about why murder is wrong. It's one of the most basic moral intuitions and universal moral and legal concepts. So if you really wanted to, you could argue that murder is wrong for secular philosophical reasons, or if you're a Christian like I was, you could make a biblical case for why murder is wrong. Either way, that's not a point of disagreement, so pro-life or pro-choice, we can agree that murder is wrong and direct our energy elsewhere. The case against abortion really rests on whether abortion constitutes murder. For an abortion to be a murder, the fetus would need to be a person because only killing an innocent person is murder. I want to acknowledge the rabbit holes we could go down here because the ethics of life can get really complicated and uncomfortable. You've got your trolley problems. Then there are cases of conflicting interest, like what do you do when someone is accidentally or unconsciously threatening your life? What do you do when one person's health, safety, and bodily autonomy is threatened, and how far can you go to protect it? Those are big, important questions, and I'll face them if I have to, but right now it's enough to say that you just shouldn't kill people in what isn't already a life and death situation. To me, the most important factor here is whether a fetus is a person. I'm a person. You're a person. We are very concerned about other people, as we hope they are concerned for us. All of this moral complication rests on whether a fetus is a person, which begs the question, what is a person? Again, as an American Christian, I had secular philosophical ideas about what people are and a biblical worldview that told me what people are. Maybe you're like me. I arrived in adulthood with a system of beliefs that I absorbed consciously and unconsciously from my parents, my church community, and my society, and that I started to rationalize as a teenager when I was developing logical skills. I didn't need to build a case for why abortion is wrong because I already believed abortion was wrong. I had just never critically analyzed my own position for weakness. What is a person? Just like with everything else, there are biblical and secular answers to this question. I think the most obvious and central biblical concept on the topic of personhood is the image of God. In the creation account, it says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. The relationship between God and humanity is special. Man is the pinnacle of creation, just a little lower than the angels. People can be God's children, his temple, his bride. Clearly, humans are very important to God, and being made in his image is an honor that we share with no other creature. It's directly linked to a stern decree in Genesis 9 that demands the blood of any man or animal who kills a human. The image of God is often expressed as something we do. Humans are commanded to subdue the earth and rule over all the other creatures. We create, we design, we exert our influence over the world as image bearers in a way that reflects God himself. The image of God is often expressed as something we are. We are intelligent, moral agents with the ability to relate and commune, to think and to choose. Our special creation sets us apart from all the other animals, and we bear God's image in our very nature. You and I individually bear God's image, and humanity corporately bears God's image. It's not something that can be diminished or possessed in degrees, but as a member of the human race, you are, in your very essence, the image of God. Now, at this point, I have my first uncomfortable realization. I'm trying to answer the question, what is a person? And the entire time, I have been talking about humans. In fact, I've been using the terms people and humans interchangeably, and I know that this is wrong, even biblically, because God is a person, or should I say, the triune God is three persons. So I'm going to have to move over to the secular approach to answer the question, what is a person? And I need this answer to be logical and moral. Logically, I need to try to state the necessary and sufficient conditions that determine whether an entity is a person. And on the other hand, I see a moral cliff where denying someone's personhood is literally stage 4 in the 10 stages of genocide. I want a broad sense of personhood that errs on the side of inclusivity because the cost of accidentally excluding someone from personhood is just too high. I have to have a coherent view, so I need my logic to feel right, and I need my morals to seem right. I can start with, I think therefore I am, and say, I'm a person. And it also seems obvious to me that my wife, my kids, and everyone else I know are people. This is basic theory of mind, but also empathy. I can intuit that there is a what it is like to be me, but for other people. I can see another self. I am not the only person, and I can recognize other persons by observing them and interacting with them. I can get to know other persons by having relationships with them. So the definition of person that I've arrived at is any being with an inner mental world and a sense of self that I can have a personal relationship with. It doesn't mean I have to have a personal relationship with them. There's plenty of people that are strangers to me and I'll never meet them. I just mean in principle, I could meet them and establish a relationship with them on a personal level. That's what it means to be a person. So I'm thinking my way through this and feeling my way through this, and it's time to check for blind spots. And one that comes to mind is how people talk to Siri or Alexa or any other AI assistant that has a name. You need to use the name to activate the assistant, but don't you ever feel like you're addressing the assistant with that name? Like when it helps you, do you thank it? Just now, do you think I should have said, when she helps you, do you thank her? Like, how do you talk about Siri in the third person? Do you call Siri she or it? The interactivity is for ease of use and the name could just be branding, but like addressing something by name, interacting with it, and having emotional reactions to it, that's when it starts to feel like a person. This isn't just limited to modern advanced interactive artificial intelligence. The media equation test from the 90s looked into how people interacted with computers as if they were social agents. In general, when we treat something like a person when it is definitely not a person, that's called anthropomorphism. I have to be on the lookout for when I feel emotionally inclined to unconsciously grant personhood to something that doesn't have an inner mental world or a sense of self. Now I need to look in the other direction. Is there anything that does seem to have an inner mental world or sense of self, but emotionally I don't see as a person? There are creatures on this planet that demonstrate their own sense of self by passing the mirror test. They can count and mourn their dead. They use tools, they have culture, and they are not human. Am I anthropomorphizing? No. Anthropomorphizing is when you think an eagle looks angry, but that's just its face. Animals exhibit some of the same behavior, observed in controlled experimental conditions, that humans do, that we associate with our uniqueness. When I come home from work and my dog looks excited to see me, I think he actually feels excited the same way I get excited when something good happens to me. I could say, its complex mammalian neurochemistry is causing a pattern of adaptive behavior, and treat the dog like an organic automaton, acting out a series of instinctive movements without an inner mental experience or sense of self. But making my dog a philosophical zombie is just selective solipsism. Yes, it is, isn't it? He's happy to see me. His nervous system isn't that different from mine or from my kids, who are also happy to see me when I get home. So there's no rational basis to say that my kids are people and my dog isn't. The association I have between being a person and being a human seems like an anthropocentric bias. When I return to the biblical concept of the image of God, now even that seems like anthropocentric bias. There's no reasonable way to tie personhood to any physical or mental qualities that humans have that wouldn't also apply in some degree to animals. So If we associate it with the divinely appointed purpose for humans as a created being, then what makes it wrong to kill humans has nothing to do with the pain and suffering or social instability that it causes. Earlier, I said that the fact that murder is wrong is so obvious and universally recognized that I wouldn't even bother explaining it. But there is no way the only explanation for why it's wrong to kill a human is that we are God's image. If any part of the reason why murder is wrong has to do with pain and suffering, then it has to include at least some animals. So, I've deconstructed my pro-life position and found that the moral sensibilities that incline me to oppose abortion also compel me to veganism. I've also discovered that my rationality and my moral intuition have been affected by an anthropocentric bias.
We do believe all planets have a sovereign claim to inalienable human rights.
Inalien. If you could only hear yourselves. Human rights. Why, the very name is racist.
I have no way to meaningfully apply the concept of the image of God except as God's "because I said so" that contradicts my rationality and my moral intuition. So now I need to unpack my moral intuition about death.
Let me get it out.
No, thank you. I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. When I think about it, I think about my family that depends on me practically and emotionally, and how they would suffer if I were gone. I think about all the potential I have yet to realize, that I'm looking forward to exploring, that I won't get the chance to. So when you learn about a death, think about all the things that factor into your emotional reaction. Did you personally know them? And how close were you? Were they young or were they old? Was it an accident or was it intentional or due to negligence? Was it preventable? Was it their own fault or is there someone else to blame? Were they in the middle of doing something they shouldn't have been doing? It's very interesting listening to how people respond to and rationalize death, but it's clear that people respond to death in general as something that shouldn't happen. But remember, I'm dealing with an anthropocentric bias, and the complexities of human social and cultural factors make this very complicated. When it comes to animals, though, we seem to have very clear rules. We domesticate some animals for companionship, but others are exploited in a more utilitarian way, some in life and others in death. They are useful to us for love, labor, luxuries, or lunch. This isn't restricted to domesticated animals. Out in the wild, we encounter adversaries, annoyances, and attractions, which is basically just a spectrum of "oh no" to "oh cool" when you see them. They're also a natural resource we can exploit, which makes them assets. The rules are clear. You're not supposed to kill these animals. If you do that, you're a bad guy. If you eat them, you're a sick freak.
They're eating the dogs.
You're supposed to kill and eat these animals, and if you don't, you're a weirdo. These animals won't hesitate to hurt you, so you're perfectly justified to kill them first if it comes down to it. Kill these if you want, no one cares. But don't you dare kill these. Mockingbirds don't do one thing except make music for us to enjoy. It's a sin to kill a mockingbird. We have some rationalizations for these rules. We need to protect ourselves from danger. Our survival depends on our ability to coexist with and exploit our environment, and animals are a resource, just like the plants and minerals in the ground. We have a respect and an appreciation for nature, but we also see ourselves as separate from nature somehow, and domesticated animals are part of our domain. But we give names to our pets, and we talk to them or about them the same way we talk to our own children. When I was a kid, we had a few steer in our pasture that we were raising for beef, but we were discouraged from naming them. We did anyway, Bilbo, Frodo, Merry, Pippin, and Samwise, but it made my parents uncomfortable when we asked, "Is this Bilbo?" when we were eating him. There I go again. I gave an animal a personal pronoun. what's going on here? I think it's obvious. We form relationships with some animals, and we treat them subconsciously like people, non-human people. The other animals can live or die, and it's not a big deal, just the circle of life. But we don't care about the life. We care about the relationship. I don't think people are actually pro-life. I think they're pro-relationship. A person is just a being that we can have a relationship with. We realize someone's personhood when we have a relationship with them.
Hey, come and play with me.
I cannot play with you. I'm not tamed.
What does that mean?
Tame means to establish ties. To me, you're still nothing more than a little boy who's just like 100,000 other little boys. And I have no need of you. And you have no need of me. To you, I'm nothing more than a fox like 100,000 foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other.
Think about how far we take this. Why is it wrong to disrespect the dead? That is the most clear-cut case of a not a person. We have language for this. It's their memory that we honor. It's the relationship that we still have with a non-existent person. We value relationship over life so much that we will respect a relationship even in the absence of the life.
But what is grief? If not love, persevering.
Have you ever heard the expression, a woman becomes a mother when she's pregnant and a man becomes a father when the baby is born? Well, when my wife and I were expecting our first daughter, I remember feeling kind of guilty that my wife seemed to have this emotional connection that I didn't. At the time, I thought about it like, am I wrong because I don't feel anything? Or is she wrong because she feels something already? But I don't think about it that way anymore. She was forming a relationship with the concept of the person she was literally expecting. She had access to experiences and sensations and hormones that I didn't have. And I was struck trying to conceptualize myself into some sort of abstract relationship. Now, we know how powerful our relationships are because we can have relationships with non-existent people, whether it's because those people existed in the past and they're now dead. Perhaps it's also because those people don't exist yet and we merely anticipate them. A person is a being with a first-person experience capable of forming relationships. A being with barely enough of a nervous system to have basic impulses can't conceive of anything or have a relationship with anyone. It doesn't intrinsically possess any qualities that make it a person. We have to make it a person by forming our half of the relationship first. And when we do that, that's as real as it gets. What I had to realize was that my moral outrage over someone else's abortion was me projecting my own relational attitude towards a non-sentient being and judging them for not forming the relationship that I thought they should.